Okay, so before I start anything, I'm going to introduce myself. I'm going to introduce myself. Get this here like this. Okay, so for those of you who don't know me, I'm Gabriel Osubia. I'm a software engineer and right now a tutor or teacher since I decided to start basically teaching. I'm going to be taking this class and honestly, I'm not sure how long. I think as long as I can actually. I would have started this earlier, but the reason why I did not is because of time. And recently I just figured I could do it if I want to. So I decided to. Um, this is a rough start, honestly, because I tried setting up the stream, I tried getting everything going, but nothing actually worked the way I expected. And YouTube blocked two of my links. And hopefully the video of this will kind of encourage others to join my next class. My intention is to hold live classes like this every weekend to teach one thing or the other. Right now, it's basically front-end development. Excuse me. I hope you can hear me. Right now, it's actually front-end development, and um, we'll see where we can go from there. I intend to build kind of like a community of learners and professionals that are coming together to basically work and collaborate, network, that kind of thing. But we'll see where this takes us. So, enough about myself. Let's get to the weeds. Um, like I said earlier, this class is basically for beginners, like people that have zero idea of web development and that have not started anything basically. And that's why I'm going to be starting from the beginning. But one thing I'm going to say is we'll be moving really, really fast. I think a lot of people don't know this, but it's best for me to state now that when it comes to programming, coding, development, software engineering in general, you don't actually need somebody to hold your hand every step of the way. You just need someone to point the direction you are supposed to go for you. That's all. What it takes is the will. If you have the will, you'll actually do way better than most people, that honestly. So you just have to be willing to do it. And why I'm saying this is this class is not going to lift you and just place you up there. It's going to introduce you and it's going to help you out. I'm going to help you out basically, but that's just all I'm going to do. Support. The main work will be done by you. Um, I'm I'm not sure if I think this messed up my stream a bit. Give me a second. Okay. So let me see if I can get comments working. So just in case, because I'm going to allow questions, of course, but that'll be at the end of the class. But I like to be getting some feedback so I know that everything is working well. Since this is the first time I'm streaming, it's important that I understand how this whole thing goes. So just give me a minute. Okay, I think yeah. So back to what I was saying. So I'm going to be teaching you, of course, but I'll be sharing a lot of resources, and those resources are to guide you. I'll just introduce you to something, I talk about the basics, and I'll share resources. My expectation is every week you go through these resources the best you can and basically improve on whatever I taught the previous weekend. So I'll not be giving out assignments or things like that yet because I want to get to a point where I can manage everybody. Hopefully, when it gets to that point, I'll be able to create like a group somewhere all of us can join, collaborate, people can ask questions, that kind of thing. But we are not there yet. So I'm just kind of giving you an insight or what my plan is basically. Um, so this class, I'm going to be teaching basics of web development and HTML. Um, What is web development? So I'll just quickly run through this entire PDF. So I'll get to the main thing, which is HTML, of course. Web development is the process of building websites or web applications that people can access on the internet. It involves creating the design, functionality, and tools that make websites work. So you don't have to write this down. I'm not saying this for you to cram. I'm not saying this for you to remember that you'll be asked somewhere else. It's basically a concept, and I just want you to know it, right? And it doesn't have to be defined like this. I'm just trying to explain what web development is. The websites you interact with, I believe all of us here have interacted with websites in one way or the other. The websites or web applications you interact with, the process of making that, putting that together is web development. And that's what we are going to be doing here in this class. Not today, but we'll start today, of course. We've started. So website versus web application. There's a misconception, especially, I don't know, in Nigeria, basically. A lot of people use this words or this phrase these terms interchangeably, and I don't think it's supposed to be done that way. That's why it's kind of like a section in this presentation so that people will understand exactly what differentiates one from the other, and they'll understand when, at least moving forward, you know that this is what this is, and you'll not be making that mistake again if you'll be making a mistake. um a website is mostly showing static content or static information to users. It requires little or no interaction at all. Example of websites are blogs, so Linda Ikeji, BBC News, portfolios, company web pages. Wikipedia, for example, is a website. It's not a web application, at least in the sense of the user side. So people that go online to basically access this platform, they are interacting with them as websites, basically. So a website requires little to no user interaction whatsoever. So you don't need to basically do anything. When you go on a website, you go and you view stuff, you read and you leave. You don't log in, you don't sign up, you don't do anything. On the other hand, a web application is a software program that runs on a web server. A web server is basically an online computer. I'll get to that later. It shows dynamic content and it allows users to interact with its features and content. For example, YouTube, Gmail, Facebook, Instagram, these are all web applications that you interact with whenever you visit them. So, yeah. Um, a website or web application basically is divided into two sections, at least at the most basic level, which is the front end and the back end. And I'm going to explain what front end and back end is, the difference, and how they interact with each other. The front end of a web application is the part of that web application that you interact with, that you as the user, you see with your eyes. So when you go to a web browser and you go to youtube.com, what you see, the videos presented to you, the buttons, all the subscribe buttons, every other thing you see, the sidebar, the everything, the ads, those are all front end components. Those are things that you see with your eyes. So the front end, it's called front end because it's what faces the users. That's what they use, that's what they interact with, that's what they see on their browser. While the back end is the program or the logical part of the web application that nobody sees. Nobody, in terms of users, of course. The users that interact with this website, they don't see the back end. But the job of the back end is to make sure the application operates as expected. So when you click on a YouTube video, it is the back end job to show you or send that information to your browser, so your browser will display what you are requesting for. If you are requesting to watch a video, it will know that this is the video you clicked on. It will send that video. If you click on someone's post on Facebook, for example, it is the backend that is responsible for determining a lot of things like the comments, sending the comments to the front end, the likes and all those things. If you go to a web application and you try to log in, it is the backend that determines whether your credentials, by credentials I mean your username, password, or your email and password. If your credentials are correct, it is the backend that determines all those things. So it's logic. It's basically the brain of the website. So that's not seen by the users that interact with this website. So what you are seeing here is basically, it's a simple diagram of a web page, which basically is rendered on a browser, and a web server. A server, I think there's another misconception here that people make a lot, where people don't really know what a server is, and I'm going to explain that right now. A web server is basically an online computer. It's a computer that is online serving content. So it's called a server because it serves content to users. Does that make sense? It makes sense, right? So a web page, when you go to the browser and you want to access instagram.com or something, and you type that in your browser URL window, URL bar, and you click enter and it takes you to instagram.com, what happens under the hood is your web browser. I will not go into the nitty-gritty, which is the detail of domain names and all, but maybe down the line we'll meet that concept again. I'll talk about it. But the back end, the web browser, goes to a computer somewhere, probably in the US or in South Africa or in Europe, wherever. It goes to a computer where the program that runs Instagram is hosted. So that program is basically copied and pasted on that online computer, and some configuration is done for that program to be online, right? It goes to that program and tells the program, this is what I want, which is basically a request in this case, right? So it's called the request response cycle. So it says, give me this. The user wants to see Miss Oga Sabinus's video. The user wants to see Oga Sabinus' video. It will say, okay, it will check things like, is the user supposed to see this video? Is the user logged into Instagram? Blah blah blah. Whatever the program is supposed to check before it serves the video back. It packages that video in a way that the web page or your front end will understand, and it sends it back to the browser, and the browser shows it to you. So the web server basically does all the logic. This is where basically web back end and front end code lives, but a lot of people represent this as the back end and this as the front end for basically visual purposes. So components of a website, I'll just rush through this and then we'll get to HTML. Let me see if we still have time. This class is supposed to run for an hour, but we wasted like 20 minutes trying to do the setup. Don't blame me. I actually practiced with this live thing a while ago and it worked, and I set up this, I scheduled the live and waited for the time, but then YouTube just blocked the link. So components of a website. A website at its most basic level has three components: the structure of the website, the style of the website, and the behavior of the website. And the structure, I think I'll use a building to as an example here. So if you are building a house, for example, you're building a house, I'll not go into the detail, but before you start painting the house, you will lay the blocks. After you do the foundation and everything, you will lay the blocks to structure. You have a structure, whether you roof it, whatever, that's all part of the structure. You put the wood, all the things that are supposed to go into building a house. That is the structure of a house, right? But you can't go and live in that house because you are not done with it yet. So the house is just basically a skeleton at that point. You've not done the basic things that would beautify the house enough for you to move in. That is what we call HTML in web development. HTML it stands for Hypertext Markup Language. It is a standard language that is used to create and structure content on the web page. So when you look at a website, I'm going to quickly go to a website now. 1 second, let me get to my browser. So I'll go to Wikipedia. Let me go to wikipedia.com. .org. I'm sorry. Yeah, of course. So this is a website, right? This website has this at the top, has all these things, the languages around this image here, has an input where you type stuff. Basically, how all these things are arranged, where they are, their positions, these are all parts of the structure of this website. So just like I explained, or I used the house example, you have built your house, you have laid all the blocks and everything, but you can't move in because that house is just a skeleton. So that's what HTML does. HTML structures helps you structure a website. Then for you to style that house, you probably have to get someone to plaster the building and then you paint it, right? So you are styling the house. You do all the interior decoration and whatever that will suitable enough for you to move in, will be suitable enough for you to move in. On a website, that's what you do with what we call CSS. CSS is CSS is a style sheet language. I'm sorry, I had a brain fart there. CSS is a style sheet language. It stands for Cascading Style Sheets. So the job of CSS is to style a website, to make a website look beautiful, to make a website look appealing visually. So that's what CSS does. So back to the Wikipedia example, the colors on this website, the buttons, the colors, the design that you see here, you see how beautiful this entire thing. It's not a beautiful website if I'm being honest, but the point I'm trying to make is what makes it look appealing is CSS. It's CSS that they used to make sure when you look at this thing, it doesn't look too bad. I am sure we have better examples of websites. I just decided to land on this to make my point. And then the third section or the third component is the behavior. So back to the house example. You've built your house, you've painted it, you've brought an interior decorator, they've done all the beautiful things for you, and you've moved in. But you need the house to have some sort of behavior. And what's an example behavior for the house example? You need electricity in the house, so you need to have light bulbs work. You need to have you need to have to do the wiring and everything to make the house look lively, to make the house feel like it has a behavior, basically. Uh, um, on with website or web development, what determines the behavior of a website is a language called JavaScript. JavaScript is a programming language primarily used to create dynamic, interactive, and responsive features on a website, on websites. So when you go to a web application and you click on a button and something happens. So for example, you go to youtube.com and you see a channel that you like and you click on subscribe. When you click on subscribe, that's action, the action of you clicking on subscribe, something happens. It subscribes you to the channel so that when the channel posts a video, you most likely get a notification and things like that. That behavior of you clicking on something happening is determined by JavaScript. So HTML is not a programming language, it's a markup language. CSS is a cascading, it's a style sheet, while JavaScript is a programming language because it's only a programming language that you can use to determine the behavior of something. So here, for example, the behavior of websites is JavaScript that you use to basically give websites behavior. I think that's all for the basics of web. I am going to, we still have a bit of time here. So I'm going to talk about HTML in detail. So I'll go into proper HTML right now. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is okay, sorry, 1 second. So we are going to be learning HTML next, and you need some tools. I think in my video I mentioned you need a computer, which is very important. Some people asked if they can use their phones to develop websites. That's a no-brainer because it means you are trying to oversimplify what we are trying to do here. You need a computer, right? If you are down to do serious stuff, you need a computer to do it. You cannot build websites with your phone. As there, I believe there are apps on Android that allow you to do stuff like that, which is tacky, but nobody uses a website built with a phone. I don't think I've even seen a site built with a phone. Maybe back in the day, but not now. For you to kickstart, or if for those of you that will be following me, right? Uh, I mean following whatever I'm doing here, you need these applications to the applications I'm going to talk about next to start writing or building websites, right? You need a web browser. I believe every computer out there has a web browser. So you need a web browser. I would advise you to download Chrome. Chrome browser is easy and it's easy to use first off, and then it has, I think, a lot of extensions and developer tools that will enable you learn fast. Some people prefer Firefox, Safari, Opera Mini, whatever, but any browser works. And you also need what is called an IDE, an integrated development environment. Please pardon me, all this would have been in the PDF, but I was trying to sort out this stream thing and I could not get to that. So I just had to put a couple of things together. Our next class will be more basically detailed than this, and so forgive me. So yeah, back to what I was talking about. You need what is called an IDE, which is an integrated development environment. It's a software that you use to write code. That's all. That's all it is. A software that you use to write code, right? Or to build computer programs. And there are thousands of them out there. But the one we will be using to build our websites is called Visual Studio Code. So I expect you to download this software. You can just go on Google and search for it. Visual Studio Code. You go to the website and you click on download, right? If you are using Windows, you can download for Windows, download for macOS. You can basically download it for any operating system that's popular. So Linux, Windows operating system, Mac operating system, whichever. I already have it installed on my computer, so I don't need to download it again. But you need to download it if you don't have it already. So I have the software installed. This is the software here. This is Visual Studio Code installed and it's opened right now on my computer. And we are going to start a new project. Right now, we don't have a specific project that I'll be working on, but I think I'll come up with something. I'm thinking of maybe we'll build a game, a web game. I'm not sure. I think I'll decide after this class, honestly. We'll probably build a let me see, tic-tac-toe game. We'll probably build our first project will be a tic-tac-toe game. That's a straightforward game that we can use the basics, the basic components of the basic languages and style sheets and markups to build. So those of you that don't know tic-tac-toe, I think everybody is supposed to know. Tic-tac-toe is this game. Basically, it's also called Noughts and Crosses. So yeah, we'll build this game where you click, you basically, yeah. I think I don't need to explain. Most people know this game. So that will be our first project. I think I'll come up with more exciting projects down the line, but for now, just have that at the back of your mind. So when you download Visual Studio Code, you click on the open folder button and you create a new folder, and let's call that folder web class. Basically, the folder you'll be creating is the most of the time will be the name of your website. So I'll just call this web class for now. When we kickstart the game, I'll create a new project and I'll share it with everyone. So when we write code in class here, you can access the code later at your convenience. If you want to, do your own thing on the side, you can also use it as a guide. So right now the folder we created is empty. I'm going to create a new file here and I'll call that file index.html. Please permit me for the time wasted. We are actually going to kind of go overboard a bit. I wanted to end the class by 7 o'clock p.m. But I can't do that because I'll not be able to cover the things I intended to cover. Because we started late, I'll end the class by 7:20. So 1 hour after, uh, you know. Okay, so I've created a new file here, index.html. This file is the entry point of our website that we are building. So when you go to our website, this is the file that you land on first. This is the page that will be displayed to the user or to whoever is accessing the site. The website we are going to be, or the whatever what I'm doing here right now is going to be on my local computer. I'll explain how you put your site online later, but right now I think I may have missed this in the introduction. When you build a website, it remains on your computer. Nobody on the internet can access it until you put it online, right? Which is basically called hosting. So when you build a website, you package it and you host it. So people on the internet, anywhere in the world, can go to some domain name and access your website that you've built. But right now, whatever we are doing here will just be on our local. I think some people will be doing this in their local computers. So this will just remain in your local computer for now. Later, I'll show you how to put your website online, but let's build something first. So now since we've gotten that out of the way, I'll be talking about HTML, syntax, structure, semantics, all those things. So HTML is a language. As much as it's not a programming language, it's a markup language. And just like every other language, it has what is called a syntax or a style of how you write it. For some very early beginners that are not sure what a language in the computer space means is, I think I have to probably break it down a bit. So just like your regular English that your spoken language, programming or markup languages, so on and so forth, are not spoken languages. They are written languages. So they are languages that you write and you don't speak them. So just in case anybody here is a super beginner, I think it's best for me to it's good that I explained that so you don't get confused when I use the word language. It's a written language, not a spoken language. So just like every language, even spoken languages that you write to, uh, it has a syntax. The syntax is basically how you write the language, right? So HTML has a couple of components. Uh, this component is what basically defines the entire language, and some of these components are the tags. HTML, being a markup language, you have to use what is called tags to write it. HTML is not the only markup language that exists, but the basic, like the excuse me, the I keep forgetting this particular word. The use of HTML is for structuring websites, but there are other markup languages for other things like XML. So, but we are talking about HTML here. So HTML has what is called tags, that you use tags in HTML to describe what you are putting together, or the structure that you're trying to put together, right? So this is how a tag in HTML is written using the angle brackets. This is an angle bracket, left angle bracket, right angle bracket. So this is called a tag, right? So when you see whether it's in HTML, whether it's in XML, or whichever markup language, when you see an opening angle bracket and a closing angle bracket, then it's a tag, right? So this is the HTML tag. HTML has a lot of tags for different things, but wherever you see the HTML tag, this is the parent tag of every page that you see on the internet today, every website. This HTML tag wraps all the tags that HTML has inside. HTML has other tags like the header tag, the body tag. HTML has the image tag. You can use image, you can use img, image for description, img for just basically source, use just basically define an image. So a HTML tag, there are different types of tags. I think a lot of tags that do different things, but there are two major types of tags, and I've used two of them here already, and I'll explain what they do, right? So this is a tag, the header tag. It has an opening and a closing. I think this is too, I'm going to zoom in so that I'm beginning to feel like my font might be too small for, since this is kind of like this is a live video. So yeah, so this is an opening tag and this is a closing tag. The difference between an opening and a closing tag is this forward slash here. Whenever there's a forward slash right after the first angle bracket, that's a closing tag. But if there's no forward slash, then it's an opening tag, right? As we continue with HTML, you interact with a lot of these tags, and you know I'll talk about the ones that have closing and the ones that do not. So the header tag has a closing tag, and this is the closing tag. The body tag has a closing tag, and this is the closing tag. Here you can see the forward slash. The img tag, on the other hand, doesn't have a closing tag. It's called a self-closing tag. So you can see it opens up here and it closes itself, right? So there are a couple of tags in HTML that don't have closing tags. And you might be wondering why. I'll explain. So tags that have an opening and a closing usually expect a content or something to be put inside. For example, the body of a HTML tag, the body tag basically expects the body of the website. There is also, I think using header is even the a not a bad example per se, but we will get to header. The head of a HTML page or a HTML file is supposed to contain information about that page. So an example would be this here on the browser window. I think I don't know if I can zoom this in a bit. Let me see. I can't. Okay. So you can see this here at the top. It's written, there's a logo here, and there's the right up here is Visual Studio Code Code Editing Redefined. That is a title. That is the title of this page that we are looking at right now. That's a description of the page. Usually that goes inside the head tag of a HTML or of a page basically. And the header tag is basically the header section of the page. So this page, for example, what you are looking at here, the first thing you are looking at here is a menu. You have Visual Studio Code, blah, 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 search bar. That will be inside the header. And the rest of the page will be inside the body. They'll both be inside the body, actually. Since this is part of the body of the page, I think I'll explain so you understand. The header, the content, the footer, which is the bottom, all are part of the body tag. So they'll be put inside the body tag. I'll get to that later, but I think I was just trying to explain opening and closing tags. So tags that have opening and closing expect a content, while tags that are self-closing don't expect any content to be put in them, right? So I'm going to clear this out so we can just do some practical stuff. At least you get proper understanding when we start. Before you start building a web page, you have to start with the HTML tag, right? So I'm going to start with HTML. If you download Visual Studio Code and you type a tag, if the tag has a closing tag, Visual Studio Code will automatically close it for you, to create a closing tag for you. I think there's an extension that comes out of the box like that. But if there's no, if it doesn't work for you, just let me know in the comment section when I post this video later, and I'll share a Visual Studio Code extension for you to use that will help you out with things like that. Yes, so this basically tells the browser that this page, this file is going to be a web page that is written with HTML. And there is another thing called doctype HTML. This basically defines the type of the document. This is what the browser uses to know the type of the document. But HTML tag is where the browser knows where to find, where to find the content of that page. So yeah. So whenever you are building a HTML, whenever you are writing HTML, you have to start with doctype HTML, and then you proceed with the HTML tag, and whatever comes inside will be the web page. Yeah, okay. So if you have downloaded Visual Studio Code, I'll advise you to download an extension called Live Server. Live Server. You can see I clicked on this icon here. Visual Studio Code allows you to download extra software that enables you to do a lot of things with the IDE. So Visual Studio, with a live server, for example, creates a live server, a local server on your computer, and helps you to view your website live on your web browser. So it's not like you cannot view your website without live server. You can, but live server helps you when you change something on your website, in the code of your website, it reflects on your web browser immediately. You don't have to reload the page, and I'll show you what I mean. So let me quickly write something in here, and when I write it, I'll explain what it is. Head. Okay, so um I have written just a very basic structure here. And when I wrote everything in here, I clicked on Control Save. For those of you using Windows, people using Mac, you can use Command Save, and it basically saves whatever I have written into this file. And even if I close my IDE and come back, I can still access this content. So you don't have to fear that it will go away. This is basically a web page, and how you can access it on your browser is by going to the folder that you created for that web page. A lot of people would use the example of, I think, let me quickly do this. So a lot of people will drag the website created to your desktop. I think as a beginner, it's easier to do that. My desktop is really messy, so I'm just going to wipe every other thing here. Okay, so this is my second screen. I need this to be on my desktop. 1 second. Okay, so this is our folder here, right? So you can create that folder in your desktop so that it's easier to access. When you click open the folder, this is the file. You can actually right click open with, but this is for Mac users. I think Windows should have something similar. If you cannot open with a particular software, which would be Google Chrome or any other browser, you can go to the browser and access it, but it will be kind of tricky. Well, I'm just going to use open with here. When you click open with, you see the browser software that you can use to open this file, which in this case is going to be a web browser, because that's what you want to use, right? So you can see this is what I was talking about. You can access your file system from your browser and get to the folder that you created, and then you open the file. But it's a bit tricky because you need to understand directory structure and you need to know how to access it from your browser, which is tricky. That is the reason why I was trying to explain knowing how to open the file from your folder with your web browser. But if you are using live server, you don't have to go through all this. It will just make it easy for you, right? It will host, it will open the file automatically for you. So that's another perk of using live server. So this is the file here. You can see it's in the folder web class. And this is the file index.html. And this is what we have written. Our first website is just basically what we've written and it's showing on the page. So let me drag some things around, please. Okay, so let me explain what I did here. This line describes the document type or document type. So this tells the web browser that this file that I want you to access is a HTML file. So the browser will understand and know what to do with it. And then I wrote like I explained, the HTML tag will contain everything the web page is supposed to, the structure of the web page, everything is supposed to be in the HTML tag. So that is why I started with the opening tag of the HTML, the opening tag and the closing tag of HTML. And then the head, like I explained before, is supposed to contain details of the website, not things that will be shown on the page, details of the page. So like the title of the page. So I'll type in title here. There's a title tag that you use to type in what will show on the browser tab. So first web page. When I save this and I go to the browser and I reload, sorry, right? Oh yes, of course. Sorry, that was a mistake. Title tags. First web page. I think I'm making a mistake here. I'm not sure why. Give me a second. Just quickly confirm something. Okay, that's correct. Okay, I'm not sure why our title is not showing up. I'm going to quickly investigate. Oh yes, of course. So the web page, I think I found the issue. Uh, sorry. So you guys remember I moved the folder from where it was to my desktop. So it turns out I was saving this in the wrong file. So I'm going to just do this. You guys don't have to bother about this, right? As far as you saved it in your folder in your desktop initially, I'm just going to open the folder up again. I was trying to figure out what was wrong. So this is our folder here. Okay, so yes, yeah, okay. So I added a title tag inside the head tag that is basically supposed to describe, basically supposed to give a title to the web page. And reloading the file here, you can see it at the top here on the browser tab. First website, first web page, right? So whatever you type in here into the title tag is what will be shown at the top of the tab, the browser tab, right? So, but I'm not going to do this any longer. I'm not going to reload the page every time I make a change because it's cumbersome. So I'm going to use live server that I was talking about. We are getting to the end of this class. This live has been running for like 53 minutes. I just realized. Sorry. So I'm going to use Live and if you already have Live installed, I searched for it on the extensions. I clicked on this extensions icon here and I searched for Live I already have it installed, but if you're opening it for the first time, you'll see install. So when you click on install, then you'll see these two buttons to disable and uninstall. When you've installed the Live extension, you'll see this down here, if you can see my cursor down here that says go live. So I'm going to click on go live here. When I click on go live, this opens up our website on the browser automatically, and I'm going to show you, this is us accessing the website directly from the HTML file, while this is what Live is hosting for us on our local computer, right? I'm going to make a change here, and I'll type our first website test. When I click on save, Live already automatically adds my change to the web page. I don't have to reload it. It does that by itself. But if you are loading the file directly on the browser, it doesn't do that. You have to manually reload the page by either clicking on Control R or clicking on this icon here. That's when the change will be reflected on the browser. So I'm going to close this. So we'll use Live here on out. Yeah, so I'll quickly run through a bunch of tags and then I think we'll call it a day. In our next class, I'll just conclude HTML. So like I said earlier, we are going to be moving really fast because this is basically going to be an introduction. So I'm not going to go into too much detail. So this is the head. I created a title in the head and I gave it first test as a title. And then in the body of the page, I created a tag, a heading tag called, the title of that heading tag is H1. And there are other heading tags, of course. There are other heading tags. A heading tag is basically just like if you are familiar with Microsoft Word, you have different headings with different sizes for heading of a maybe document, whatever. This is a HTML document, so it has heading tags that have different sizes. So there's heading 1, and there are actually 6 headings: heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, and heading 6. Don't forget to modify the closing tags here. Heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, heading 6. So sorry, H1, the heading tags in HTML range from H1 to H6, and here we have, I'll just quickly do this so I'll show you guys. When I save this and we go back to our web page, you can see all the 6 headings: heading 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all varying in sizes. And that's basically all the heading tags we have in HTML. And then there's something called a paragraph tag, which in HTML is represented with P. So this is the paragraph tag. Whatever is written in here is just going to be displayed on the web page as a basic text. So this is a paragraph. So you can see the paragraph tag here. It's different from the heading tags, and it's not bold. The way heading tags are bold and kind of big, but the paragraph tag is just regular, normal. When we get to CSS, I think you actually learn how to style all these tags. For now, we are just discussing structure, right? I'm going to quickly run through a bunch of other tags so that so we have the heading tags, we have the paragraph tags, we have the image tag. The image tag is represented as IMG, but it's a self-closing tag. Now, what differentiates the image tag from the paragraph tag, for example, is the paragraph requires or expects you to put something inside. So it has an opening and a closing, but the image tag doesn't. The image tag expects you to put something in here. What I just created now is called an attribute, right? So, and the attributes of HTML tags describe or determine the behavior of that tag, right? So the attributes of a tag describe the tag, and they basically make the tag behave in a certain way. Um, sorry. Yeah. So the image tag allows you to display images on your website. Every website you see out there showing an image, wherever, no matter the size or the whatever dimensions, it's the image tag that is used to display that image. I'm going to show you guys how to do this, but our time is fast spent, and I think we're at the point where I'm supposed to start picking questions, but I'll just quickly round up. So we have the image tag, the img tag, however. We have list tags. We have table, forms, div, span. I'm going to talk about all those actually. But for now, I think I'll just pause on attributes so I don't confuse you guys. I'll just finish up with tags and then I'll talk about attributes briefly. So we have the list tag. If you want to like list a bunch of items, you most likely have to use the list tag to do that, right? So just like every other document that you've interacted with, whether it's on Microsoft or whatever, you can have an ordered and you can have ordered and unordered lists. Ordered lists are lists that have numbering, right? One to whatever. Unordered lists are lists that do not have numbering. So they are just there, right? They don't have numberings. They basically just have like dots or slash or hyphen to identify, or to at the beginning of each item. So HTML has ordered lists, which is represented as OL, ordered lists, and it also has unordered lists. So this here is an ordered list, OL, ordered list, and this is an unordered list, UL, unordered list. So I don't want to add comment. Unordered list, and this, in case I'm not in case I'm not pronouncing it well enough for people to understand, so that's why I'm spelling it out, right? So this is an ordered list and this is an unordered list. So wherever you see UL is unordered, wherever you see OL is ordered, right? Then you have a list item, basically. So the list item is represented with LI, right? This is the list item tag. List item. Why HTML is so simple is because the moment you look at a tag, it's easy to tell what that tag is, right? HTML, head, title, body, header 1, header 2, header 3, header 4, header 5, header 6. Whenever you see P, you know it's paragraph. Wherever you see IMG, you know it's image. Wherever you see OL, you know it's ordered list. Wherever you see UL, you know it's unordered list. Wherever you see LI, you know it's list item, right? So I'm going to say item 1. I'll just write a couple of items here. Item 2, item 3, and then I'll do exactly the same. So the ordered list and unordered list take in items. You don't actually have to specify an item. A list item is a list item. What differentiates one from another is if it's an ordered item or an unordered item. So if it is in an ordered list, it will be an ordered item. But if it is in an unordered list, then it will be an unordered item. There's a lot of mixing of words there, but I'm sure you guys understand. So I've saved the file, and you can see here, this is our ordered list. You can see the ordering, the numbering, sorry, the numbering here, 1, 2, 3, and this is our unordered list that just has bullet points, right? So that's the difference between ordered and unordered lists. Um, I think there's also a link tag, which is called a tag actually. It's not called I think there's a link tag, but it's for something else. So the A tag is a self-closing tag. That the A that you're seeing here is called it stands for anchor, right? It stands for anchor, and it's basically you basically use it to um Sorry, it's not a self-closing tag. I just realized. You basically use it to define links from one web page to another web page, right? So it takes in an attribute called href. This href is supposed to point to a web page or another website that you want to go to. So if let me say I want this to go to I want this to go to Wikipedia, right? I'll type https wikipedia.org. And if I save this, you can see the link here, right? This will, if I click on this, it will take me to Wikipedia because that's the job of the anchor tag. So clicking on it takes me to Wikipedia. You, you can also use it to link other pages of your website, right? Uh, Let me think of something here. I just realized that I think it will be more beneficial for us to build our tic-tac-toe game when we are learning JavaScript. Right now, it will be best for us to build a regular website that uses all the tags that we'll learn in HTML. Okay. So we have other tags that I'll not go into detail now. Maybe later when we start using them. We have the table tag, we have the form tag, we have the button tag. So the button tag is used to add buttons to your website, right? So you can see the button here that I just created. There are a lot of other tags. HTML has a lot of tags. HTML is just made up of tags basically. So it has a lot of them that you use for different things. So in our next class, we are going to go into much detail about some other tags that we did not explore, like divs, spans. But the reason why I decided to take so much time talking about tags and describing them and so on so is because this is our first class, and I don't expect anybody to have an idea of what I'm talking about. So I had to do a lot of explaining, so that at least even if you don't fully understand, you get an idea. When I share the resources that you are supposed to go through this week, you get a better understanding of what I've been talking about. And I expect that I expect that when I share these resources, those that are serious will go through them and learn, so that in the next class we will not have you like whatever I'll be talking about. I'll still continue from where I stopped, of course, but you actually have a better idea of what I'm talking about. I could not set up the unfortunately I could not set up the chat. I wanted to set up live chat so that you guys can ask me questions, but unfortunately I could not get that to work. Uh this is the first time I'm streaming, like I said before, so it's I'm just learning how to use this feature on YouTube. But in our next class, we will have all those things. You guys will be able to ask me questions. You guys, though I'll not allow anybody to join this room, of course, but like I'll just leave the live chat on so you guys can ask questions, right? And then, so just to round up here, I'm going to share this video in the channel, and I'll share the link. Where will I add the link? I'll share the link. I'll share the link on my social media. I'll share it on YouTube, on Instagram. I'll share it on Facebook. I'll share it on TikTok. Those of you that have me on WhatsApp, I'll share it there too. And you'll be able to come back to this video wherever you are not clear. You basically watch it again. And in the description of the video, I'm going to leave resources to websites that you can use to learn HTML and basically advance on what we have learned here already. So we've come to the end of the class. I really appreciate you guys for joining, honestly, especially considering the fact that we started really, really late, and at some point, I was scared that you guys would feel discouraged and just not join, right? But it's good that I think we had up to 7 people here. I'm sure in the next class we'll have more than that. So thanks for joining again. Have a nice evening. for those of you joining from Central Europe, West Africa, yeah, hopefully we have some other people joining from all over the world. So, okay, have a good night. Thank you. Bye.